Okay, today's video is going to be assembling one of these Adams crimpers for the Sharps rifle cartridges. And so these are all the 3D printed parts. And so the things from the hardware store that would need to be purchased would be these steel sleeves. These are 1/2 inch long, 3/8 on the outside, 1/4 inch on the inside. These binding posts. These are the steel ones. Don't get the aluminum ones. These are 1/4 inch diameter and 3/8 of an inch long. And you'll have to pick up some of these 3/8 nylon washers. And then you'll need 3 number 6 screws, 3/8 of an inch long. And then you'll need some number 6 screws that are 5/8 of an inch long, and then some 1/4 bolts. These are, I don't remember what they were. I think they're 3/4. Yeah, they're 3/4 of an inch long with the large heads. I have a bunch of these, but most hardware stores should have them. They're used for assembling shells and stuff. So you need 2 of those. And then 2 1/4 nuts to go with them. The other things, so they can be purchased at a regular hardware store that sells Hillman products. They're in the little drawers. They'll have all that stuff. The other thing you'll need is a piece of 22 gauge piano wire, and to make the spring. And there's another piece of wire here you need. This is actually a piece of welding rod with the flux removed. This is a 3/32 diameter rod. And so you'll need to get one of those. You'll need a 4-inch wood handle. This is a 4-inch handle with a 3/8 hole drilled down through it. So I just hold it and run the drill bit through it to hollow that out. That'll be your handle. So you need that. Things that are helpful but not necessary is a 1/4 inch reamer if you have it, and a 3/8 reamer if you have one of those. And if you don't have one of those, you can use a drill bit, or I'd recommend actually using just sandpaper, because you want everything to fit very well on these and not have a whole lot of play. So even with the reamer, I still finish it off with sandpaper for certain holes to get like a sliding fit. You also need some Teflon tape, plumber's tape, and one tool you'll need is a file and a pair of needle nose pliers. This is a 5/8 piece of steel I used to bend the spring, also to bend the rest here on the end. And then you'll need some also need some super glue and a screwdriver. So the first thing I want to start with is you want to get rid of all the sharp edges. Like here, you want to remove just chamfer the edges with a utility knife. Same way with the back plate here, especially where the bullet goes in, you want to just go around and remove all any elephant foots that were formed from the printing process. Just remove them. And then this one here, you can even chamfer it some more, because that's where your bullet will fit in. And in the printing file, I'm going to have different back plates here, and you want a back plate that will fit your bullet, so it'll fit past your first lube, your band here, so it just fits in real nice and align itself. So this is a 14 millimeter hole, and so if it's a little tight, just put some sandpaper in there, loosen that up. If it's just a little snug, you want a little bit of play in there, but not too much. So you kind of want to smooth that out real good. Just make sure that your bullet will fit through there really nice. And so just do that, and then the next part here is you want to also chamfer these holes a little bit here. You don't have to do them a lot. That just helps because you want to ream these holes out. And so the first thing you want to do, I'm going to push this all out of the way, is you want to open up, you want to put these two spacers in these holes. And so and these holes are a little bit undersized, so you got to open them up. So these are a press fit in these holes. And to do that, I just use a 5/8 reamer and just ream them out. Or just use sandpaper, open them up, make sure that's a nice tight fit. And remove any flashing or burrs on here. Get rid of that. Yeah, so these you want to be a press fit. So you have something like this, and then you want to actually push these through a little bit more so they just stick out the back. And then these washers will actually go on the back side like this to help do the alignment, do an alignment process. So you can set that aside, that part's done. The next part here is this is the hardest part probably, is besides bending some of the wire, is so you want these two pieces to go like this, and you want these to be a sliding fit but not real tight, so it takes a little work getting these sized out. So if you have an over or an undersized reamer set, just ream it up to the next thousandths of a size over. So it'd be 376 inches, I guess it would be. And so if these aren't a nice good fit, you'll have a lot of slop in it, and it will just not work that well. It won't feel smooth, and so you definitely want to make sure that you have these a tight fit. Yeah, so that should just slide right on easy as pie. So you can take a piece of sandpaper here and just kind of roll it up. And just kind of sort of turn a certain direction, it'll open up and get tight, and then you can kind of just want to keep working that. Yeah, so this takes some time to do that. If you have your reamer, you can kind of just gotta be careful you don't melt the plastic though. It'll actually melt and be even harder to do. It's kind of getting there. Yeah, this is the hardest part. And they're supposed to be, the spacers are supposed to be 3/8 of an inch thick, but in diameter, but I think they might be a little oversized. But yeah, so you want something like that. So it kind of, so if you're turning this and this part's turning, it's too tight. So you want something like that. So then you want to do the other one here. That's the same way. Okay, so that's perfect. It just slides on. There's no slop. So after you do that, you can probably use. I should have kind of did that backwards. You can either pop one of these out, or if you have an extra one, you want to put these two pieces together like this. So this you have these two aligned. And so I'm just going to pop this out here. So I guess first thing I want to do is just make sure these are, instead of doing that first, just switch these two around here. But you want to use one of these as an alignment pin. Like this. And then take your 1/4-inch reamer or a 1/4-inch drill bit. And then just ream these two out the size. And then you also want to do the two transfer bars here. You want to do them the same way. So you want to ream these out. These are already done. Take your pin, these binder bolts here, and then use one for alignment, and then you'll want to go over here and ream the other one out. So that way they're both the same length, and you'll have something like this when you're all done. And so they're done. And then these two holes here, so that way they're the same length from the pivot hole to the end here. I'll put my piece back in. So when you're all done, you'll have something like this. And you ought to be able to, you can do a test here to see. Now this is designed different than the original. The original had a, actually I have this upside down. That's the other thing you got to watch out for. I have this backwards. I swear I do that every single time I put one of these together. So it should be something like this. And so the original had a stop pin here and a slot, and it would stop this handle. But what I found is if there's any play in this transfer bar or in these pivot points, so when you go to crimp something, if you go down and push the lever on this pin, any play in this bar here, this jaw will not fully go up and close. It'll always be a little bit open. So what I did is I put a little nub here sticking out, and so this acts as the stop pin. So when you go down, your top lever here hits this nub, and then this part here, so it will not go any farther. So you can actually use it like this, but without the transfer bar in there, it will just open all the way. There's no stop in it there without the transfer bar, but it will function without the transfer bar. And then plus, when you put the spring in there, the transfer bar connects the two together, so it springs them. But so without the crossbar in here, they'll just pop wide open. And so that's one change I made to it. I think it actually works better than the original. And then there's also another feature here with the plate on top. So I've changed that to where I got a plate on the top and the bottom, and it actually sandwiches this lever here between these two plates, and it keeps it makes it more rigid, so it's not as wobbly. And so that's one change from the original that I've made to it. You really can't tell it. It's all hidden underneath these plates. And so it'll look like the original, but it's the stop functions slightly different. See, now this spacer is tighter than the other one. So I need to open this up. Actually, what I'm going to do is these are slightly different in size, so I'm just going to switch these around that way. Okay. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so the next step here is you want to make sure all your, I would need to kind of sand some parts here to make sure they're flat. And so these are usually flat because this is the way they're printed down. But on these two back pieces here, I usually like to sand the surface. The bottom is already flat, but the top has little nubs on it. So I like to sand these flat. So I'm going to sand these on a piece of sandpaper here. And so to do that, I just kind of doesn't take a whole lot just to get the high spots off of it. All right, so that's it for that. And then the next step here is there's also this plate in the back here is, I think this might be tight. Yeah, I'm going to resize this for the for my final files, but this hole should be big enough and you shouldn't have to do this. But I'm going to or I might just leave it like this. You kind of want these two parts to fit pretty good together. But this don't have to be very precise. Yeah, just make sure that this don't have to be as good a fit. Just make sure it slides over that really nice. Yeah, something like that. And so the next part is you have to glue this piece to the back of this one. So they get glued where you line up the holes like this. And so what I like to do is just run a this is a gel glue, and so just make sure that these holes are lined up, and take your dowel pin out too and use that to help line up your, so it'll be something like this. So you can see how here when I put this piece on, so this well actually, so this kind of acts as a shim between the lever and the backing plate here. And then when you bolt your, there's a front plate here, and when you bolt this on, these two plates will capture this handle and keep it from moving side to side. This is one of my original prototypes here, and you can see how it end up like this. Whereas with the two plates on it, there's no slopping it at all. So that's what those two plates do. They kind of just help keep the two pieces lined up together. And so once you get that glued on, you can put your bolts in, your screws I mean. So these are the 3/8 sheet metal screws, number 6 screws, and they just go through. Here comes my cat, sorry. He's gonna meow up a storm. And if it gets too hard to put a screw through, just put some wax on it here. Put a little wax in that hole. Works just like wood. Makes it go real easy. That was so much better. Okay, so you end up something like this. So now when you put this jaw on here like this will fit in between these two pieces like that. And then next thing you want to do is you need to bend your spring. And so to do that, I bend it around this mandrel. I'll go around one time. And so I'm going to do that on the vise here, and then I'll come back and show you that after it's bent. But you need a long enough length here that you have. So you want to measure. So you want to go from this hole, do a circle around this bolt here, and then back to this other hole. And then you need some to make a bend in it, so you'll end up with something like this. So so what you have to do is I usually leave extra on the end, because you go too short, you're stuck and you can't add any to it. So so I'll start my bend right about there, and then I'll go around once, and then you almost go, and then it'll spring back to like a 90-degree angle like that. So this was wrapped all the way around. So this was super. So this is a 5/8 pin, wrapped it around, and then it expands out to about that much. And then you'll have to tweak it a little bit. So you have something like this, and then so next step is you got to mark the parts for the bend here, the first bend down into the holes. And so for that you'll need a pen. And so what you do is you squeeze this together like this. And you want to have the jaws closed. Line your, and then kind of mark your holes here. You got your 2 marks there, and then take a pair of needle nose pliers and just bend them like that. And I need a pair of wire cutters. And so this is 6 millimeters wide, this part here, so you need at least another bend here about that length. So you want to mark something like that. And then you okay, so you end up something like this. And then you want to trim off the ends here. These are too short. Leave about probably around 1/4 inch on either end of the last bend you made. So it'll be something like this. And so make sure that I like to have these bent down a little bit. So it's kind of a slight Z shape. Alright, and then after that, you gotta take your jaws here, and so this one here will go into this hole. This can be kind of hard to do. Kind of have to push them in there like that. So that's that one. And then on this bottom jaw, do it so the wire comes out this way, out the bottom. And so, let's see here. All right, so you got something like that. And then this back tab here, just take that, kind of bend it towards your, oops. Kind of bend it down. If it ends up scraping the back plate, just tweak that a little bit. So yeah, just kind of bend this so it's kind of, so when it so it kind of curves in more towards your lever. And so when you put these two on here like this, okay, so now it's spring loaded. You can see here you can actually operate it without the transfer bar in, but there's nothing to keep it from springing apart like that. So once you get the transfer bar in, that'll stop. You want to put the two smooth sides towards each other, and then put your screw in. And these screws don't need to be really tight. I'd put a little bit of blue Loctite on them if you can, after it's all together. So you have something like this, and then you can just take these, and you'll have to kind of tuck this underneath here and kind of hold it together, kind of like this. So it'll go like this, and you just pull back so it's in the, so this little nub here is in this notch, and then when you put your pieces on, you got something like that. Okay, and then you want to put your bolts through. Well, actually, before I get that far, I'm getting ahead of myself. You got to actually mount the back plate onto the main body here, and I forgot to put a washer in. So let me take this apart. So you can kind of test fit it here, make sure it works, and then just watch it when you take it apart. It might go flying. Okay, so the first thing here, I kind of forgot to put that washer in too, but so this back plate here will mount to the main frame like that. And so to do that, you want to put your bolts in, put a washer on the back like that, and then put your nut on the back, something like this. And this spacer here should stick out enough here that it'll just kind of snap over that washer here, something like that. And then what these washers do is it transfers the load. So the screws aren't, so when you're pressing down, the screws are not carrying the load of this plate. It's actually the bolts, these spacers, and these washers are being transferred. They're like dowel, they act as dowel pins to carry the load of the levers. And the originals weren't like this. They would have been drilled and tapped right into this metal. This would have been a solid metal piece. But just because it's 3D printed, I had to do a little bit different design here. So just leave these a little loose, these nuts, and they will sort of fit in the hexes here. And these two, the washers here will snap into these round circles. Just make sure you chamfer the edges a little bit, take any burrs off, but they should kind of go in like this. Okay, it should. They're good. It's a good, if your printer tolerances are different than mine, it might be looser or tighter. Plus, I think there is a slight taper on these washers. Yeah, there is. So there's, on these washers here, there is, one side has 3 little dimples and the other side is flat. Make sure the dimples are facing up. Because I think when they mold these, there's a slight draft on them. So just make sure that the 3 dimples are facing up. And then when you oh, this was making a liar out of me. There's probably a burr in here. There we go. Just make sure that, yeah, just make sure there's a slight chamfer and no burrs in those holes. And then you can put your screws in it. Oh, but before that, I forgot something. I am not used to doing this on camera. So you want to put some wax in these holes. Okay, so just rub some wax in these 4 screw holes here, and that'll make it easier putting those screws in. And if these pins get pushed in, that's fine. When you put the levers on and tighten them bolts up, they will pull out to the right spot. Put some. Okay, so you have something like this, and just you pull these pins out here, kind of like that. So now your washers and your nuts are all captured behind this plate. So the next thing to do is wax these surfaces here for this washer. Just wax these real good. And on the back side here, wax this surface right here. And then up here on the lever, right here where the 2 plates are, you want to wax here. A little wax over here on this side. And I should have put some wax on this bar here before I put it together. I forgot to do that. But where these pivot points are, wax them really good right there. And so all right. So these I just adjust them till they're kind of tight and then back them off a little bit. And then it'll end up something like that. And then the last thing here to assemble this is to, on this screw, 3D printing threads is very hard. Tolerances are like either too loose or too tight. So this threads, there's a lot of slop in here. And plus too, plastic into plastic tends to bind. So what I found works best is this hole is a little, these threads are a little oversized. And so I take about 6 turns of Teflon tape. We'll fill up that gap and then make them really smooth. And so something like that. And then the other thing too, on the inside of this is like a 60-degree taper. This is the stop for the bullet. Just take some sandpaper and smooth that out real good. And then this goes into the back. And so what this Teflon tape does is it makes the threads smoother. It also takes out the play, and it also allows it so you set it and it doesn't move anywhere. So that's makes it so you can adjust it and your adjustment will stay put. So you can see here as you turn this in, something like that. You just want to take one of your bullets here and adjust that screw so you're so you want to adjust that screw in and out so when you drop your bullet in like this, it'll automatically set the distance, and then when you close your jaws, those jaws will slide right into your lube groove to crimp your bullet. And so this one here is set up for paper. This is set up for paper, so basically you can I just have a paper tube here, and you kind of just put your bullet on like that. And then you turn it, crimp, turn, crimp. Like that, and then when you're done, it'll be fully, it'll push that all the way to the bottom of the lube groove. So I'm going to have a different size the jaws here that will be different sizes for different depths. So if you try using this one for a linen cartridge, it wouldn't work that well. So I don't know if you can see here. There it is. So this hole here is, so when they're closed, that center hole here where it crimps it is 12.3 millimeters. And this one here is 13.5. So if you were to drop so this is made for linen, and so basically it works the same way. It just works a little different. So you'd have powder and stuff. You set your bullet height like this. And I usually like to have it up to about the first, that it covers up that entire lube groove there. And then when you drop your bullet in, it will so something like that. And so the length of your your it's just like right when you're making them without the crimper, you want to have your length right. So when you go to crimp something, you actually want your paper longer because you got the distance down into the groove, across, and up the other side. So basically, you need you need it longer to fill that space. Um, so here's a linen cartridge that it's really long, and you can see it crimps. You know, crimps in the middle, and then here's one that's pretty much the right length for the linen. And the linen, I don't crimp as deep because that's a lot of material to stuff down in that slot. So it's just kind of a small, gentle crimp on those. But with the paper ones, man, you can really crimp them in. If you got thin paper, you can crimp them in. And so this one goes all the way to the bottom, and this is no glue. I found that even without glue, I almost think you don't need glue. And here's one with a paper that's extra long with a deep crimp on it. So those two were made on this size crimper. And so so that's that. And then so I'm just going to show an example here of different papers. So this is a lunch bag paper, and so you know, you can see how that's pretty tough, pretty hard to get off. And so gotta fill that out a little bit. That end is too small for some reason. So I'm going to run this all the way up to the very to the first or it'd be the second ring here. And so that's crimped extra long. And so here is, let me see, this is regular printer paper. This is like 20 or 24 pound paper. So, boy, I made them tight. I think my mandrel has a taper to it. So that one came out really nice. And so basically that would get clamped to the table. So what you do is go like that, put a handle on it. Oh, I forgot to do something on this on the handle here. You trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it don't quite work. So gotta knock the edges off here, and that'll fit in nice and tight. And so basically it clamp it down like that. It's not going to go anywhere. And so this here is a cotton rag paper. And I forgot to talk about this. This is just a piece of 3/32 welding wire bent. So I just bent it in a U shape. and then you clamp it in the vise like this, and then just flatten it over. And I use the same 5/8 pin for that. So I just wrap it around that, make a U, clamp it, and then bend it over. And then you cut these lengths to however long you want it to be for your cartridge. And so they will fit. And then sort of bend the ends out, and then it will fit into the holes here like this. And then you can just kind of slide it in like this, rest it, and so you'll have a crimped cartridge like that. And then you can adjust your depth here too, just make sure that's correct. So you can kind of see here it's kind of nicking the edge of this. So basically the bullet is probably out too far, so you kind of got to adjust that. Let's see here. Yeah, so there I had the paper too long. So that you just have to do with experimenting the length of your paper you need. But I found if you put your bullet in, and that has got too much taper on it. So just go up to the next, cover the entire groove there like that. And then you have something like that. So that's about it. And so yeah, you need different sizes for different diameter bullets, and your groove widths, and the thickness of your paper. So there is no one size fits all with this. But with the thicker paper, you need a bigger crimp opening, and so but I really like it for these linen cartridges. It just kind of rolls that edge over real nice, and kind of just line it up. Yeah, so it kind of just rolls that edge over, finishes it out real nice. And so that's about it. Thanks for watching.